Imagine the cold arriving before you have a word for winter. One morning, you wake beneath an animal hide and find the grass around your camp turned white, your breath hanging in the dark, and the familiar path to water edged with ice. You are not camping for fun. You are trying to keep your family alive through a season that can turn a small mistake into a silent grave. Modern people can lose heat and call a delivery app, but your Ice Age ancestors had no walls, no weather forecast, no stocked pantry, and no second chance. So why would you not last one winter with them? First, forget the movie version of a lone hunter conquering snow with a spear. Survival was a group calculation repeated every hour. Who gathers fuel, who watches the children, who checks the wind, who knows which valley still holds edible roots, and who remembers the sheltered place used by grandparents. Archaeologist Ofer Bar Yosef spent decades studying early human sites in the Levant, including Gesher Benot Yaaqov, where repeated traces of burning help show that fire was not merely a dramatic discovery, but a maintained technology. A hearth means light, cooked food, safer sleeping space, hardened tools, and a small circle of warmth that changes where a group can stay. But a fire is only useful when someone has dry fuel, protects embers, and knows how to restart it after rain or wind. That is your first problem. Cold does not simply make you uncomfortable. It changes the arithmetic of every calorie. Your body burns energy to hold its core temperature near 37 degrees Celsius, while wet clothing and wind pull that heat away faster than your instincts expect. Ice Age people did not carry modern coats, yet they had an advantage you probably do not: a lifetime of reading materials as insulation. Fur was turned inward for warmth, hide was scraped and softened, grass could be packed under a sleeping layer, and a windbreak could be placed where the landscape already did half the work. At the Upper Paleolithic site of Kostenki in Russia, archaeologists have found evidence for structured living spaces in a brutally cold environment, including shelters associated with mammoth bones. The point is not that everyone lived inside a mammoth house. The point is that shelter was engineered from whatever the place offered. Your second problem is movement. A supermarket teaches you that food appears in one bright building all year, but hunter-gatherer food moved with herds, ripened in patches, hid underground, or vanished under snow. The Schoningen spears from Germany, dated to around 300,000 years ago, show that earlier humans made carefully balanced wooden hunting weapons and likely used them in coordinated hunting. A successful hunt could bring meat, marrow, hides, sinew, and fat, but it also demanded planning, tracking, butchering, carrying, sharing, and preserving before scavengers or spoilage claimed the reward. You might imagine a large animal solving the winter menu. In reality, one animal creates another emergency. How do you get the usable food home before darkness, cold, and predators close in? Fat is the part modern imagination usually misses. Lean meat fills your stomach, but in deep cold, the body needs dense fuel, and northern hunting groups learned to value marrow, brains, organs, and rendered fat because calories matter as much as protein. Anthropologist Richard Lee's long-term work with Jew Huansi communities in the Kalahari was not an Ice Age time machine, yet it made one lesson impossible to ignore. Foraging knowledge is social, detailed, and distributed among people, rather than stored in a single heroic survivor. One person knows a tuber patch, another can read an animal's track, another remembers the water hidden in a dry channel, and older people carry seasonal memory that no map can replace. In a hard winter, losing that shared knowledge can be more dangerous than losing a knife. Now picture the ordinary labor behind a warm night. Before sunset, someone must collect more wood than feels necessary because the fire will consume it while everyone sleeps. Someone must keep sparks away from hides and children. Someone must decide whether smoke is worth the insects it may repel or the eyes it may sting. Someone must judge whether the camp is too exposed to wind, too close to an animal trail, too far from water, or too low for a sudden flood when thaw begins. These are not glamorous decisions, but they are the decisions that keep a group from spending the night shivering awake. Researchers Will Robrooks and Paula Vila argued from European archaeological evidence that habitual fire use became important long before our own recent history, although the exact timing and local pattern remain debated. That debate is useful because it reminds you that technology is never just an object. A burning branch is not the same as a reliable fire system. A stone blade is not the same as the practiced hands that choose the stone, strike it safely, resharpen it, and fit it into a task. You could be handed a perfect hide scraper and still fail because you would not know when a hide was ready, how long it needed to dry, or how to prevent it from turning stiff and useless. The weather would test your attention in ways a heated room never does. A clear, calm evening can feel safe, then become dangerously cold after the sun disappears. A slightly damp layer can become a heat leak. A frozen stream can look like a shortcut until it becomes a broken ankle far from camp. Human fossils and tools from many Pleistocene landscapes show that our relatives entered difficult habitats, but they did not do it by ignoring risk. They did it by turning repeated observation into routine. The group that survives is often the group that leaves before the storm, carries extra fuel before it is needed, and notices the animal behavior that says the season has shifted. Then there are the children. Any real winter story has to include them, because an adult can endure discomfort that an infant cannot, and a group cannot simply pause care while everyone hunts. Food has to be shared. Bodies have to stay close. Illness, injury, and exhaustion have to be managed with no clinic waiting over the next hill. Archaeologist Penny Spikins has argued that care for vulnerable group members reaches deep into human evolution, supported by evidence that some injured individuals survived long after they could not have managed alone. Compassion was not a soft extra added after survival. It was part of the survival system itself. This is the counterintuitive part. Your biggest disadvantage might not be toughness. It might be independence. Modern life trains you to solve problems alone with purchased tools, private rooms, and systems you rarely have to understand. An ice age. Winter rewards the opposite habit. Share information, share labor, share food, and listen to the person who has already seen this weather. A skilled group could make a harsh landscape livable, while an isolated strong person could run out of heat, food, and judgment in a few bad days. Your body still carries the old logic. When cold air hits your face, when darkness makes you want a warm room, when a meal feels especially satisfying after a long walk, you are feeling a system shaped by ancestors who treated warmth, calories, shelter, and company as urgent facts. They were not superhuman. They were observant, practiced, and connected. And that is why you would not last one winter with Ice Age humans. Not because the cold would defeat you first, but because you would arrive without the 1,000 shared habits that turned winter from a death sentence into another season.